Of course.
My name is Jennifer, and this is my husband.
No, I'm the husband.
The husband.
Yeah.
My goofball husband. And we have had a pretty crazy week
Yes.
with schedules, and so I didn't get a chance, or we did not get a chance to record our tea time with Jen together. And so I normally post those Friday mornings at 7 a.m. Um, Central Standard Time. But we did not get an opportunity to do so this week. So we thought, hey, we might as well go live since we're together tonight. So we're here
Together.
drinking my
Forever.
lavender chamomile tea.
Oh, that makes me sleepy.
I know, that's why I'm drinking it. I have an early day tomorrow. So, we
What's the
had,
topic this time?
well, we were going back and forth on which topic we wanted to kind of touch on tonight. And one of the topics for this season that I really wanted to talk about was how the garden proves that God exists. And that's, to me, how I see his hand and his existence in the garden, how that proves it for me. And so that's what we're talking about tonight. Can you pull up on your phone
That's what I was going to try to do.
just in case there's messages, because mine struggles. But yeah, so that's tonight's topic. He's gonna pull up the chat, so that way we have that. But okay, so tea time with Jen. If you are new here, just so you're aware, it is a podcast style video. We this season we are the kind of more raw and unfiltered. Past seasons we have talked about a lot of intentionality, approaching the holidays with attention, parenting, letting go of things, healing, forgiving. We've talked about all kinds of things. This season, we're not using the word intentional, but it's kind of all things that you're going to be doing with intention, because our focus is to live with intention.
Correct.
Right. So, with that, I share a lot of. I only do these videos November, December, and January on Fridays. Other than that, I share a bunch of cooking videos and gardening videos, a lot of gardening, some craft videos, just basic stuff that I'm learning, skills that I'm learning, or things that I love. And we are working towards our homesteading dream. And we really changed courses a few years ago, and went that direction, and have been consciously working towards that goal, towards that basically calling on our lives, we believe. And that included the move to Arkansas. We left California, we moved here. And so but even when I was in the apartment garden, so for years I would say I had a black thumb, because I could not garden. I struggled so bad with it. Trying to keep something alive was really difficult for me. And
I think it was more because it was not your main focus.
Right. Garden's like having a toddler. Like, we were just talking about that tonight.
It's like, you can't go on vacation because your garden's going to struggle.
Well, you just have to have somebody water it or whatever.
That's true.
So, right now, we're in this weird phase in the garden of having to put the frost cover on some nights and then not have it on during the day, and trying to figure that process out. So we have 2 days coming up. We've had the frost cover on, and now we have 2 days coming up. It has to come off. And so it is like having a toddler. It is, you have to pay attention to it. And that's why I struggled. You need to know what it needs to eat. You need to give it water. You need to protect it. There's a lot of similarities. But I think because I was so like not good at it, I've always loved certain aspects of it, but I viewed myself as not good at it. I didn't really put a lot of thought into a lot of the little pieces that you learn as you learn how to garden. And so I'm going to share some of those basic things that that I've learned and that we've kind of talked about some of them.
This is not the birds and the bees one.
This is not the birds and the bees. So, a little backstory. So, we are Christians, and we believe that God created the earth, and everything that is on it, and God created us, and so forth. And so, when looking at the argument of creation versus bang, everything exists all at once, right? It just cosmically happened to like poof, things went into existence and made things a certain way. I have a hard time with understanding that concept and that theory. And there's a few reasons why. Believing so believing that by chance everything happened to pop together the way it is, that space and time and particles and all these things just happen to come together to create the different animals, the earth, the people, plants, all the things, right? It is so hard for me because there's so much detail. There is so many things that are so amazingly intricate. Like they go together.
It's kind of like without one thing, another thing wouldn't survive or struggles to survive. Kind of like we need the sun to survive because the sun does a lot for us. Just like we need the moon to do what it does, and we need insects to do their
bees to
thing,
pollinate, and
we need these microorganisms that
in the soil.
the soil, and we need water to water our plants, and then the sun helps plants grow through their what's the word for
photosynthesis.
That wonderful thing. So the thing about it is, for all that to happen in such detail, there is a thing where God put all that detail into it.
Right, and if you look at that, so that's the basics, right?
Yeah.
So, but if we go into the detail of, let's take squash plants. Okay, so squash plants, there are multiple types of squash. They fall under some like 3 or 4 basic.
Sex talk,
I am not. Well, no. So 3 or 4 big categories that all of the squash, including pumpkins, fall under.
Yeah.
They're like cucurbit or something, pepo or whatever. And so squash can only cross-pollinate with other squash in that same family. One seed planted will automatically will grow. It's going to grow a plant as long as it has soil and and squash, like you can do your carving pumpkin, have seeds fall over, and then next year you have squash growing there, right? So all winter those seeds sat there, and then they will grow and produce tons more seeds to keep producing and keep producing. And when you look at the intricacy of how certain things, how certain plants are created in a way to actually last through animals eating them, so that way when they're passed, the seeds will actually still sit in the soil, and when the temperature is right, when the environment is right, it will grow. And the intricate detail of how the tomatoes, they're part of a nightshade family. Peppers are part of the nightshade family. Potatoes are part of the nightshade family. So are eggplants. But those things don't cross with each other. Those things you can't naturally cross them and have them. You can plant them next to each other, and you're not going to end up with a tomato eggplant variety, right? You will still have tomatoes and you will still have eggplants. Now, if you plant two tomatoes next to each other, they may cross with each other. The concept that can happen by poof, this just...
Well, the other thing is if you plant a hot pepper next to a non-hot pepper, the non-hot pepper will get hot because it cross.
Well, the seeds from the non-hot pepper will grow hot peppers the following year.
Oh, so not that year, but the following year?
Correct. Oh. It's their babies would do that.
Oh.
I know,
because they were doing the dirty underneath.
He laughed so hard about because so plants are there's a lot of commonality to humans. You need a male and a female.
Whoa.
And it's really funny if you look at squash plants. It's this female plant has like the fruit, and it has like female looking parts, and the male flower does not have fruit, and it has male looking parts inside of it.
Wow.
And he just cracks up at it every single time. He's like, I can't handle this conversation. So,
well, you're the one that likes a farm because all you gotta do is stare at butts. Goat butts.
Oh. I'm like, so anyway, when looking at all the different varieties of plants out there, and you're looking at how they interact with each other or they don't interact with each other, and how they provide different things to the soil and to nature, to me it's 100% proof that there's a creator. That these things were made on purpose the way that they are. That these things didn't just poof exist or morph into them, because they don't just morph. Like, you can have different tomato varieties by crossbreeding them, and depending on the climate and the types of soil they're in and so forth. But naturally, those things, it's not going to come from an eggplant. So the tomato plant had to be created, right? And different varieties of tomato plants were created in the wild in different areas. And then at some point, those seeds were carried somewhere, and then they have been able to be crossed and turned into all kinds of amazing things. Now, you can genetically modify seeds. People do that in a lab all the time. Like, there's a tomato that they crossed with a snapdragon to get a deep purple color from the snapdragon into the tomato. I'm not talking about that type of plant growth and science and new
non-lab made.
Right. And the fact that if you plant, like, the whole concept of the Three Sisters gardens, where you have something growing tall like corn or sunflower, and but corn is a great example. So the corn grows super tall, and then it provides support, right, for something viney like a pole bean or a dry bean, right? Usually a dry bean is something that a bean that is a pole bean that you're going to allow to dry on the vine, and that will grow up that, right? Corn is planted closer together so that way it can wind pollinate and get on all the little silky strings, because every single kernel of corn, for it to develop, has to be pollinated. And you have this corn being a support for the beans. Corn needs nitrogen. Like, it is a huge nitrogen feeder. They get really big. And so this corn needs nitrogen. The beans provide that in the soil. And so the beans are helping the corn is helping the beans, and then you could put squash at the bottom, which provides ground cover to keep weeds out of it. It helps provide some shade, and it's how things can work together like that. Now, that has being planted like that can be more human involvement, but the fact that in nature, if you look at it, there is always something in nature that helps something else in nature. It isn't a freak coincidence that certain plants do well together. We can try to manipulate things, but nature will do run its course. The earth wants to be covered. So as gardeners, we can get really upset because there's weeds growing through. Well, what is a weed? A weed is a plant that is somewhere we don't want it. It can be something that somebody else really wanted in that place before. And so it wasn't a weed 10 years ago, but now it's a weed because we don't want it there. So our opinion and views on plants and how they should operate is very different than necessarily what plants were created for, and the reason why they exist, what they do for the earth, for the air, for our bodies, for animals around them, to still be able to provide everything it's doing and do it in a way that makes sense. How the earthworms going through the produce that falls from the plant that goes into the ground and it decomposes. As it's decomposing, the worms help actually move a lot of that nutrients. They aerate the soil, but they move a lot of this stuff down further around the roots and so forth, and make things bioavailable. And the fact that nitrogen, the best thing for the garden is rain.
Yeah.
Something very natural. Like, it comes down and it feeds everything. There's so many things that are so intricately connected that I don't understand sometimes how people think that can just poof into existence. And so looking at all of that, and then you can go from plants into animals, right? Because you have animals who are eating all of these plants in the garden, but then they poop.
Yeah, so you have the what most people consider pests, and then you have the predators, and then
so you do have that, but you have the garden. I want to finish my train of thought really fast. So the garden, the animals eat the produce. Like,
Right.
let's say chickens or rabbits come in and eat all your lettuce or whatever, but they poop along the way. Pigs will rut things up and dig things up, and then they poop all over the place. Guess what? That is feeding. The plants are feeding the animal. The animals are feeding the plants. That intricacy and that level, like, it doesn't make sense for it to just, oh, this just happens.
It does.
But God created that. That's what I'm saying.
I know, but it does just happen.
And you're right. There is a cycle, even with the animals having predator and prey and things. Because if you have too much of something, it's not a good thing. The earth was created to create balance.
True.
If you have too many deer or too many whatever, something's going to come in and hunt it, right? And there was actually a really interesting, what was that show? The little biggest farm or something like that, about the farm in California.
Yeah.
That they started on really bad land and they built things up, and then things naturally, like they were having snake issues and mice issues and things like that, and the owls ended up coming in and starting to take care of it and being the predator and taking care of that issue for them.
Yeah, and they had snail problems, and they had ducks that eat or geese that ate the snails, and they had gopher issues, and the gophers were getting eaten by snakes and the coyotes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they also had issues too, where the coyotes would attack their chickens and this and that, and it just
you got different predators each time around, because the earth is created in a way that finds balance. Yeah. And plants have to die for something else to live. Something always has to die for something to live. Yeah. And when they're dying, what they do or how they die, whether they are being eaten and digested, or they are dying and falling on the ground and providing nutrients into the soil, for everything to intricately work so well together, for all of those pieces, and the way the nutrients work and how everything falls in, I found it amazing how much I see God's hand in all of that, because the proof of a creator is so evident, and the proof of a loving creator who creates balance, who creates nutrients, who thought of all of the things ahead of time when they spoke it into existence, is just amazing to me.
Yeah, well, that and also God creating us to tend the gardens and maintain it, and giving us the wisdom of what needs to be done to take care of the gardens too.
And for that garden to
thrive,
nurture us, like to be able to
produce and give us
the strength.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the basic of this. Was a very short topic, but it's something food for thought when you're looking. When you are doing something so basic like gardening, and whether it's gardening or taking care of animals, or let's say you're eating your next meal and you're looking at all the steps of how things are connected, why things are the way they are, the hands that went into making that, the fact that these nutrients are even available. If you start connecting the dots just of everyday life, things that you get your hands into, but especially it's so evident in the garden, it is amazing to see the love that was put into it and the thought that was put into it. Because if you think about it, if every seed could just cross with everything, we'd have some really freaky things growing on this earth. You know, if you had a loofah and a watermelon and a carrot cross, like what are you gonna get?
Loofah melon.
Is it gonna be a root vegetable? Is it gonna be something you can scrub with, or is it gonna be nice and juicy and I don't know, like
Actually, no.
right, that would be a very interesting thing. And the fact that those things can't cross to create so the fact that those things can't cross to create something so crazy, but each thing has such a unique use, a unique reason for existence. I think it's amazing. And even the plants that are poisonous are an interesting addition into our ecosystem and into the world. And so I would love to hear some of your guys' thoughts on this. Have you taken the time to think about all those little steps, to think about where the first tomato plants came from, to think about what would happen if these things weren't created the way they were, the implications of why things are the way they are, or anything like that.
Can you imagine not having apple trees? That'd be pumpkins
on a tree.
Pumpkin Nichols tree.
I'm really hot right now. We have a heater going behind us. We're using our little fireplace heater for the first time, and I'm feeling it right now. I have my sweatshirt on.
Pumpkin snakesicles.
Anyway, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. If you've spent time thinking about it, or now as you're thinking about it, what your thoughts about this are. Because to me, all those intricate pieces 100% show a creator and forethought and a reason behind them, and not just some happy little accident.
Poof!
So
it happened.
So I would love to hear what you think in the comments. Definitely put your input in. As always, I ask that you be kind and loving to others in the comments, and because we're all going to have some different opinions on this, and you may not agree with me, and that's totally okay. I know there's lots of people who don't agree with me. And so make sure that we're still showing love and so forth. That's one of our big things. It's just being super nice to disagree agreeably. Like the last video
with
says. So that's it. We thank you for joining us, and we will see you back for the next video on Monday. No, I don't remember which one that is, but we'll have a different video out on Monday. But our next Tea Time with Jen will be the day after Thanksgiving.
So stay tuned and press like, subscribe, and comment for any future content that you want to see.
That's it.
Or if you want me out of the videos, or if you want me to stay in the videos.
Everybody loves Junior.
I'm joking.
I don't know what to do with this man. Anyway, we wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving.
Junior out.